Okay, hi everyone. I'm very excited about this panel and what we have for you today. My name is, like Chris said, Félix Barreras. Right now, I am the Director of Business Development for the Nexo Group. We're a small fund operating from Puerto Rico. And yeah, you guys, if you guys want to introduce yourself, feel free to do so.
Hello, Jose Torres. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but spent most of my career working in the stateside. Came back to Puerto Rico after looking at renewable energy projects originally for the fund that I worked in San Francisco. But being from here and learning about opportunity zones, I thought that there was both a great opportunity but a need to really develop the industry. There's a lot of things that can be done, but when I started looking at what was getting done, Puerto Rico was way behind the curve of investing in opportunity zones. So I decided to relocate back to the island a couple of years ago. Started an advisory firm. One of the reasons was a lot of the companies that we looked at, I felt were not really ready to accept money. They had ideas, they needed capital, but there was some work that needed to be done before they were able to accept real third-party capital, right? Not friends and family, but investment capital from a third party. So that has been our goal. We have a small fund. We work with Maria and other professionals here on the island. We do have a fund that is a Delaware fund, so we are not a Puerto Rico fund, so you won't find it on the local register. We are registered with the Office of the Financial Services in Puerto Rico. The Commission, yeah. But we did that because when we were looking at starting the fund, and now I will finish here, the regulations in Puerto Rico were not ready. So we rather go with what we knew at the time, and most of the companies that we had as private equity were always Delaware companies, investors feel comfortable. So we worked to do that, but there's no right or wrong way. But just in case we're a Delaware partnership only doing businesses in Puerto Rico, so that Puerto Ricans can actually invest in our fund and get the benefits. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of the good things and not so good things about trying to do things in Puerto Rico.
Hi, I'm David. First of all, I want to say thank you to Chris and Michael, Felix. I'm humbled to be up here in front of everyone. I really appreciate sharing any stories and answering any questions I can. I am originally from Wisconsin, born and raised. I moved to Florida after I built a nice portfolio in Florida. I was able to relocate and retire. And after I retired at 48, Robbie, my business partner, he said, we need to go to Puerto Rico because of Maria. And after Maria, we came over here and we could see all of the distressed properties. And our main goal was to get single-family homes. We've been here 4 years. We have purchased over 90 properties. That is a combination of short-term rentals, long-term rentals, flips, single-family flips. Over the last few years, we've kind of graduated into larger projects. We've purchased some boutique hotels, a little bit larger multifamilies. Recently, an office building. So we also have some resorts on different parts of the coast. We're in Rincon, Cabo Rojo, Luquillo. We pretty much have projects all over the island. And we started an Opportunity Zone Fund just recently. We are not experts in it and never claimed to be. That's why we partnered with OZ Pros, which we feel is one of the top pros in the market. And we are going to be raising money for our Opportunity Zone Fund to put some different properties in there. And I can send a pitch deck out later if somebody wants to hear about that. But thank you guys for listening to us today.
My name is Oliver Gillier. I'm a partner in a opportunistic capital manager called Rio Blanco. Originally, I'm from Belgium, then passed by New York, and then finally ended up in Puerto Rico, which has been a great experience for the past 8 years. Our capital manager invests in real estate here in Puerto Rico. We have 3 OZ funds, one commercial building in Ponce de Leon. Then we have a development in Guaynabo that is about to break ground. And then we have here in Puerto de Tierra a $78 million project of a luxury apartment building. that's going up. And then we have also investments in venture capital here in the medical marijuana business. We own the second largest medical marijuana company in Puerto Rico. We have other venture capital ventures that are based in Puerto Rico but do business outside of Puerto Rico. So we use acts like Act 20, the Manufacturing Act, and series of Act 60s. Let's call it that way. So there you go.
Thanks, guys, for the introduction. The first question, and feel free for all of you to chime in on this question. What are some of the biggest challenges you have gone through building an OZ fund or project in Puerto Rico? So,
Well, I can talk about the challenges of the OZ fund. It was easy because we partnered with Ashley and the OZ pros, so it really was. They handled pretty much everything. As far as challenges in construction, there's the obvious, the labor shortages, the material shortages, the inefficiencies of the government to issue permitting, power company, water company. I can go on all day about what the issues are in building construction in Puerto Rico.
very good.
I would say that Puerto Rico being a separate tax jurisdiction that took the most amount of time and money from a legal and accounting perspective. Again, no right or wrong answer, but having to make decisions and go through all the different structures that you could use, that was difficult. Probably the other most difficult part, we look at this as a real fund, so more than one asset, is really the time that we have from the investor having 180 days to invest, and then our fund having 100 days to invest. Even if the portfolio company can have a lot of time to deploy the capital, construction projects, or you need all the capital once you start. So I think that was a challenge, having to manage those two. The strategy for the fund kind of had to adjust to those realities.
Well, I got lucky. I got lucky because I have a great partner who's a local. He's right there, Gabriel. So he deals with most of the problems that we have locally. Okay. So he could probably answer that better. But it's more of the solution. In our case, was that we partnered up as me being the guy from the continental U.S. and he's the guy from Puerto Rico, and it made things considerably easier. I think working and creating a partnership with locals and people that know how things are done locally is probably the best thing you can do when you invest here. Yeah. Whether you're a big fund from New York coming down here or just a regular investor, to look at the right partner here that knows how things are done is kind of the way to go. I mean, obviously we've had issues with constructions and permitting and electricity and so forth, so on. Electricity being probably the major one here in Puerto Rico, which they're working on. So let's be hopeful. We've also had to deal a lot with taxes. Most of our investors are from continental U.S., Latin America, Europe, Middle East. So trying to create a framework for investors to come to Puerto Rico and invest and have some of the tax benefits. So for us, it was on the OZ side as well as on the venture capital side, figuring out the right tax structure for the local project as well as international projects for the investors.
Thanks. So obviously,
and Grant Thornton was very helpful with opportunities. So just so you know,
shout out to Maria. So obviously, you guys all come from very different backgrounds. In your case, finance, real estate. You come all the way from finance, but in Belgium. Well, New York, okay. Why Puerto Rico? What do you think makes Puerto Rico such an attractive investment destination? And obviously, do the risks and the issues that you're going to be presented here outweigh everything that goes well in business here?
So originally, I was coming down here with Act 22 with the intent to slow down. That didn't happen. It accelerated because I believe Puerto Rico has a huge potential. Not only is it extremely well located centrally between Latin America and the U.S., which could make it a very big gateway for Latin America into the U.S. Unfortunately, Miami took most of that, whereas Puerto Rico is better positioned for that, with the population that is bilingual by nature, which is, I speak 5 languages, so it's kind of, I find it very important that people speak multiple languages. Puerto Ricans have that. You have very well-educated people willing to work hard, and it's great to live here. People are very nice. So it has, I think it has the brain that you need to build businesses. It has a great setting for attracting businesses, and it's extremely well connected. You don't need to go. We have business in Colombia. We can fly to Colombia, Panama, Miami, all over the U.S. You can go via Madrid, all over Europe. I wish there was maybe a connection to London, would make it even easier. But it's very well connected. It has a great workforce, and it has a great infrastructure to do so. And I was very happy to see the presentation of Invest Puerto Rico, because it actually puts it on a screen for people to realize all the benefits Puerto Rico has.
And I can't say I was thinking on that large of a scale. Honestly, we came here because of Maria, because buying distressed property is what we do. And we did that for years, and I've been doing it for 15 years in Florida. And my partner, Robert, which most of you know, who's been doing it for 25 plus years. He's done over 3,000 deals. I've done a little over 400 myself. So we came here because of the distressed property. And but once we showed up here, the warmth that we felt from the local, it was unbelievable. We felt like we were home within a short period of time. We started coming here for 2 weeks, and by the end of that second week, we felt like we were home. By the end of the first night, we decided we were going to move here, or at least set up operations. And we were right after Maria. We couldn't even find a place that had power, water, and internet. Those 3 things didn't exist in the same property. So we picked the best options we thought worked for us, and we came here. And the first night, we were sitting around because there was nothing else to do. We were playing cards, and Robbie looked at me and he said, "What do you see?" And I said, "Opportunity." So that's why we came here. And we can't scream from the top of the rooftops, enough how the people here are wonderful. Everyone coming to the island is wonderful. The opportunities are just unbeatable. I started in real estate in 2008, right after the crash, and I was lucky enough for it to really work out for me. It's changed my entire life. And I feel like coming back to Puerto Rico at that time, and even still, we're back in those 2008, 2009, 10 era, where there's so much upside and opportunity for a lot of people to come to the island. And we can't say enough of how, if you're going to be in real estate, Puerto Rico is a place to be.
I'll echo both of your comments. I think the only thing I would add is I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so this was an opportunity to come back and relocate to Puerto Rico. But I was working on renewable energy deals for a very large, $100 billion asset management company. And as things got tougher, and finally with the hurricane, they decided, you know what? We have so many other opportunities across the U.S. and the world that it's really not worth it. Every time that you saw an article in the New York Times about Puerto Rico, it was something that was very negative. I actually thought the other way around. I thought that this was a time not only because of helping, but actually real opportunities come when no one else wants to come in here. So I thought and learned about opportunity zones. I learned what we do, energy. Puerto Rico is going to transition to, even if it's not 100%, even if it's 20%, it's billions of dollars of investment opportunities. So when I looked at all of that, and for personal reasons, it was a no-brainer to come to Puerto Rico.
I want to add to what my colleagues here are saying is that the tax acts help a lot. Okay, Puerto Rico is a Caribbean island, beautiful Caribbean island, but it's not very well known outside, to Europeans and Middle Eastern Asians and so forth, so on. Just like every small country. I come from Belgium. We have 10 million people. Besides having the capital of Europe, nobody really knows much about Belgium, right? So Puerto Rico has the same disadvantage that it's smaller. The tax acts allow people to reconsider and to say, oh, okay, I get this benefit to moving there, and it's that final push some people need. Like when I had a financial firm in New York, and I moved, and a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you move to Puerto Rico? My ex-wife is New Yorican, so we came to Puerto Rico 4 times a year, loved it, it was beautiful, and yes, it all sounds great to move there, but New York is the financial capital. what the Act 20 and 22 did for me was that little push I needed to say, whoa, okay, this is worth taking a risk for. You know, you just don't leave New York for Ohio or Belgium or anywhere else, not Puerto Rico. But Puerto Rico gave that little push to say, all right, let me try this. And it was a big success. And now all our companies have Act 20 or an Act, an Act 60, let's call that. All our companies are benefiting from these tax acts to repatriate profits back to Puerto Rico, where we employ people. You know, we have employees here, whether it's our buildings here or whether it's, from the management company, we repatriate through the acts. And I think that's one of the big benefits of Puerto Rico, that besides the fact that it's a beautiful island with great people, you actually get that little push. Why would I go to Atlanta if I could go to Puerto Rico, where Puerto Rico gives that little push that Atlanta wouldn't? And I think that's a big edge for Puerto Rico.
Oliver, in that particular case, can you give some examples of some of the benefits that Act 60 are doing for your companies? For example, one that I'm very familiar with is the tourism tax credits, which used to be Act 74. It's now under Act 60. So if you can go a little bit into detail about maybe how the marijuana business is, obtaining some of those benefits from the acts, or any other business here in particular in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I mean, for example, we own a brand of trampoline and kid entertainment parks in Latin America, specifically focused on Colombia. And we use our Act 20 Act and the Act 20 Act to repatriate some of the profits under that act, given that the management is happening from here, given that the licensing companies here were able to have the Colombian company pay their licensing fees to Puerto Rico, and it reduces considerably the tax rate that we have in Colombia, considerably. It's a little more complicated than that, but we're going to be here for hours.
Yeah, and with us talking about the tourism, we've opened up last year in April a small 7-unit in Loquillo, 1 block off the beach, and we did that under the Tourism Act, and because of all the tourism incentives there are, I think he talked about them earlier with the discounts in the property taxes, the discounts in almost everything that you do. You're getting reduced rates. You're getting tax credits, which the tax credit is excellent. The only thing we haven't received yet, and I'd like to hear if someone knows anything about this, because we've been trying, is you're supposed to be able to get a tax credit for not having to pay sales tax. Yeah. That's what we hear. We have our grant.
It doesn't apply to everything you buy. It has to be property that is going to be used in the operation.
Correct.
And that you cannot find it locally.
Does it apply to, or can you get it early? Because we tried to get it early and we could not get it early. Well, so what sense does it, I spent $200,000 in material on this particular project.
That's an issue we have.
Okay. I just didn't.
Treasury is not giving, it's a treasury issue. Okay? Because treasury is the one that collects the lien.
Sure.
And they are not accepting the application.
Okay.
It's internal, and I know the DDEC is working with them on that, but we have several properties in that situation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Until you get that certification, you still have to pay the tax.
Okay. Yeah, we've applied, I believe, for that tax exempt status, and I haven't really heard anything. Our people are following up, but we have everything else, and we've got our tax credits, and we're selling tax credits.
But once you have your grant,
I have.
it should be no problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great, thank you, guys.
I'll talk about a couple of the other decrees, or there's a manufacturing, which again, besides the low income tax and the property tax advantages, a lot of them can also qualify for cash grants or tax credit for some of the CapEx. Sometimes they put restrictions that it has to be equity. I don't understand why, but it's not that simple. But you can basically get a company that could start a manufacturing facility in Puerto Rico and get the government to subsidize part of your capital equipment. So I think that's attractive. And the renewable energy, those projects, again, besides the 4% income tax, the property taxes on a large power plant could be significant. So having that exemption makes sense and is attractive. I always tell people, if you invest in a project in the U.S. that's paying taxes, your cash flow is going to be a lot less than that similar project in Puerto Rico. So from a cash perspective, those renewable energy opportunities in Puerto Rico can become very attractive because of the what used to be called Act 83, renewable energy and infrastructure. I don't know why they put them together, but Chapter 7, but yes. And then recently we made an investment in a company that's in the, you can call it manufacturing or agriculture, and they have both decrees, and basically the bona fide agriculture decree provides certain benefits, and the manufacturing, like I mentioned before. So some companies can qualify for different tax credits as well.
I think actually the manufacturing also includes licensing. Yes, and so we with our Child Entertainment Park group, we use the Manufacturing Act to repatriate money under licensing, and the effect is more than 10% on the bottom line for us. So it's a nice impact.
Perfect.
I just, Alex, if I may,
Yeah, for sure.
the point of the government subsidizing the gap.
I'm gonna share my.
I just want to add a comment to Jose's comment on the subsidies you can get from direct, from the government for machinery equipment. You have to apply for them, of course. It's like a contract you get with them. But right now, they're working on a reimbursement type of process. So you have to buy and show them that you bought them, and then you get reimbursed. Because in the past, they would, advance the money, and then the business would go belly up or something, and they will never get the money back. So they have changed the process there, but it's a process you need to follow.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So one additional question. In your particular case, for all of you, what are some of your biggest recommendations to develop an OC project here in Puerto Rico, or an OC fund? What have been some of the shortcomings? What have been some of the things that you have learned in the past that you wouldn't want to make the mistake twice again?
I can start because I have not really, we just started our fund. We don't have any shortfalls yet, and I hope we don't have any. As far as starting it up, like I said, it was easy with Ashley, and I don't have much to say on that. Sorry.
That's good. No, that's okay.
Probably 2 points. One, I try to tell people don't look at your project as an OC project first. Just make sure it works. Many people try to spend a lot of time, and not just with OC, but other tax incentives, and try to get their business plan driven by the incentives. I tell them, get a project, get a business plan, and then look at how you can improve that with the tax incentives and the opportunity zone. One of the things, from my perspective, why it's so much easier, or why there's so much investment from OC in real estate, is because it's very easy to show how if you buy something for $1, you improve it for $1, is located in the zone. So that makes it easier to qualify and monitor that. On the business side in Puerto Rico, because everything is an opportunity zone, you could potentially structure almost anything to be an opportunity zone business, but for the most part, it doesn't necessarily make sense because the benefits go to the investors, like you've heard before. So I think the notion of letting OC drive and tax incentive the decision of business creates, I think, can derail the ability for the business to truly be successful.
I couldn't agree more on what you were saying. I would add to it that don't expect things to go fast. Just make sure you have deadlines in OZ, and make sure you give that time and you do your right research to make sure you respect those deadlines, because things don't go necessarily fast depending on which project you have. And I could not reiterate more the importance of having good local partners, because Puerto Rico has its own rules and regulations that are a little bit different than the mainland. There's also a certain way of doing business that you want to make sure that you don't miss. Every country has its way of doing business. Puerto Rico is not an exception. So when you have the knowledge that you can get from the local expertise you can get from having local partners is priceless, and it will definitely make a big difference.
Yeah. Thank you very much. in that particular case, I know that someone that's very keen on partnerships is David and Robbie. So how have you guys kind of moved forward here in the island by doing exactly that?
Yeah, partnerships is one way that we've scaled our business. You know, I don't care how deep your pockets are, well, unless you're a billionaire, your pockets are never deep enough. And that is one of the reasons that helped by partnering with people, is to be able to scale the operations financially, but also knowledge. We've been able to put ourselves in the right position with the right people, partner with the right people, find the right legal, accounting, and that for us, the scaling with the partnerships has made all the difference in the world. You know, PR consultants may be the company in the face, but it's all the people behind the scenes that's really made it all happen. And you know, we're grateful for that. And the partnerships are completely the biggest value that we think we have. And most of you who know us know that if you want to be a partner, we're open and willing, and we would love to discuss anything at any time.
So, and this is a question for all of you too. In your particular case, and with your experience that you all have had in the coming years, how do you see Puerto Rico growing in the next couple of years regarding industries such as tech, manufacturing, and farming for potential OC investments here on the island?
Well, I think, I mean, it's hard to say this, but I think the Maria was a blessing in disguise, because it put Puerto Rico pretty much out there to the world to be seen. And it also is bringing in a lot of capital from federal funding, as well as private capital. I mean, I would agree that we should not just focus on Act 22 and 20, but for example, in our fund, our capital manager, our two biggest investors are Act 22ers that believe in Puerto Rico. And we have many Act 22ers that came down here and are investing in Puerto Rico and investing in our projects together with obviously Puerto Ricans that we have as customers and so forth, so on. The manufacturing. I think technology is in up and coming. It's accelerating. You have like Parallel 18, thanks to Invest Puerto Rico, also a lot of capital coming down to companies here. You have tech funds like Moro Ventures, which is investing in tech companies here in Puerto Rico. On the manufacturing side, you know, it's always been a very strong country for manufacturing. I think it can only improve. But, you know, we come from a big drop. I mean, we had the Manufacturing Act in Puerto Rico, which was a blessing. Then for some reason, you know, it wasn't there anymore. It caused a major dip in the economy here. I see it, for example, I'm the consul of Belgium to Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. And Belgium was the second biggest trade partner of Puerto Rico, which nobody knows because we're such a small country. But we were the second biggest, thanks to farm and manufacturing. And that suffered considerably because we went from 5 billion to 1.4 billion in business with Puerto Rico. And that's sad to see. So I think we're now, thanks to Maria, back on the map. People are reconsidering Puerto Rico for many things, including manufacturing.
And I can just speak a little on just the real estate side of it, that he is correct. Maria did put eyes on Puerto Rico. It was the best thing that ever happened to it, we feel. The prices we've seen, whether it's wholesale, retail, and even the opportunities in the last 4 years, has gone up considerably as far as the costs go, but the opportunities and the amount of properties that are out there, there's still a lot of opportunity out there for people. We're very bullish on Puerto Rico. I think in the future, we've got an upside for at least 5 more years. That's how we feel. We felt when we came here, we thought it'd be about a 10-year upcycle, and we're about 4 years in. I think we're called it fairly close, at least from our experience anyway. I just think that the real estate opportunities in Puerto Rico are going to be plentiful for quite some time.
I also look at the fact that we have an opportunity to rebuild. Many places, when you're looking at investments, the investments are really looking at replacing things or coming up with a new product. I think in Puerto Rico, we have an opportunity to do both because there is a need. I mean, if you look at the energy infrastructure, it's not like you're going to be replacing gas-fired plants. You're going to be replacing things that are not EPA compliant that have to be replaced. So I think that drives the economy, right? You're not replacing one thing with another one. You're actually replacing it with a better infrastructure. The same thing with the people that are moving to Puerto Rico. They're bringing in new innovation. So we're not, this is bad or good. My brother tells me that's not how we do things here in Puerto Rico. And I tell him, have you gotten it done? And if not, don't, sometimes it's just try harder, it'll happen. But at a certain point, doing the same thing over and over doesn't give you a different result. So I think bringing that knowledge base, and it's not that it's better, it's different. And when you have different people sharing ideas, as usually for me, when it's not only the most interesting aspect, but when solutions come out because two people think differently, they put their thoughts together. And I think that's really happening in Puerto Rico every day. Go ahead.
I do want to agree with you on the opportunity zone. Most people are thinking about it real estate. We're currently working on a new restaurant chain that we're bringing to Puerto Rico, and we're seeing how we can do that under the opportunity zone umbrella, because it's indeed a great tool also to use for venture capital.
Yeah, Michael, thank you very much for your comments. We're good? Okay. So we're out of time, guys. Thank you very much for. That's it, right? Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much to all of you.